Brooks Austin is the film guy you guys love when we have him on. At Brooks Austin BA is where you find him on social media. What is up, Brooks? How are you today?
I'm doing well, boys. As a guy who watches a lot of film, you never really get a true feel of what you're watching until you see it in person. And I felt this way about meeting you guys in real life. Much more handsome in real life than even on film.
I'm glad you noticed. Yeah, I'm glad you noticed.
Yeah. I think there's tongue in cheek there after I bumped into him on the sidelines, and he was like, "Sorry, sir, let me help you up." Yeah.
You okay?
Brooks' latest film deep dive is on Tennessee, Ohio State. What would your summary takeaway be from breaking down this Tennessee-Ohio State game coming up Saturday night?
Ooh, first and foremost, I racked my brain. I searched and searched and searched and thought and thought and thought. When you go to play Tennessee's offense, it's not just the pace. People talk about the pace. A lot of teams play with pace. A lot of teams nowadays trying to get as many cracks at it as they possibly can. But it's the combination of the pace and the space with which Tennessee plays. They take those wide receivers, put them way outside the numbers on what we call the red line, and they're really making you make a decision. Are you going to load up and play the box, leaving those guys out on islands in vulnerable situations at corner, or are you going to protect those vulnerable situations at corner and play the run game with light counts? That is the first and foremost thing. I'm curious. How does Ohio State respond to the pace and the space of what they've got going on at Tennessee? I know they've got big bodies. I know the defensive line is really, really good. But what do they choose? You have to really pick your poison against Tennessee. You're never going to be able to feel comfortable in both situations. Offensively for Ohio State, my question is that offensive line, man. They're having to do a lot of things to create offense in the run department for this football team offensively, and I really do think they're going to struggle to consistently create running offense in this football game against Tennessee. And offensively, man, for Ohio State, they've really had to protect their quarterback, a quarterback that they spent a lot of money on in the portal with just basic concepts, man. They're not the Ohio State of old that I'm used to watching on film from Ryan Day and Chip Kelly.
Hey, when you look at their averages, Brooks, Quinshon Judkins 5.5, Travion Henderson 7 yards per carry. But watching it, it looks a lot different. And, these are two guys, when healthy, you would think with Ohio State, they'd be able to go, 200 combined yards per game. They just effectively haven't been able to do that against really good competition. Is it as simple as the offensive line hasn't been that good, it's been that banged up?
I think so, to be honest with you. I think they have a real problem right now being a little bit too complex. I think they're doing too many things. They're trying to do a bunch of things halfway well instead of doing a couple of things really, really good. But you hit the nail on the head, man. When you lose a first-round caliber left tackle midway through the season, and then you have another guy go down, and then Seth McLaughlin pops his Achilles, and now all of a sudden we're doing all this rigmarole, switching guys in and out. You're going to have some down-to-down inconsistencies in your performance as an offensive line in the run game, and you've seen that. And I think what's created some of those illusions, if you will, in the average or yards per carry for these running backs, man, they do still create chunk plays. They'll still be able to, one down run and get stuffed for 2 yards, and then next thing you know, turn around, Quinshon Judkins going for 65 as I get an Amber Alert in the middle of our interview. But nonetheless, they've had a down-to-down efficiency problem all year long, and as my producer gets one as well right after that. But yeah, you've had a down-to-down efficiency problem at Ohio State with regards to running the ball, something that I didn't expect to happen when Chip Kelly came over from UCLA, but it boils down to offensive line play, man. When they got really elite defensive tackles in front of them, they struggled to stay on blocks.
Yeah, check and make sure it's not for Ryan Day.
The Amber Alert?
Yeah, because they're really...
Boys, do I have a take for you? Because I always come on here and I like to listen to what you guys got going before I come on here. Boys, the standard at Ohio State is not 66 wins out of 77 games, whatever the hell y'all just rolled off. Guys, they've had 2 losing seasons since the conclusion of the Second World War. They win games at Ohio State, no matter the football coach. The standard is national titles, and he ain't doing that right now. He's got to go do that, okay? So Nick Saban, 66 wins? No, Nick Saban walks in Ohio State and doesn't lose to Michigan, who can't establish a forward pass. That is the problem right now against Ohio State or with Ohio State. The standard ain't winning 10 games, 11 games, winning 66 out of 77. No, the standard is go win titles. He's got to go do that.
Brooks, I wish you were a wrestler. I'd like your hype talk out of the ring before fights and after fights. I think you'd be
I'll cut a promo for you.
Yeah, you'd cut a good promo for
I'll
me.
meet you, Coco Beware.
Hey, Caleb Downs in this secondary, having had a look at the Heupel way of doing things one time. Does that help maybe in the DB room that he can help educate the other guys a little bit?
I cover high school football here in the state of Georgia, as does Gary Downs now, believe it or not.
Yeah.
The father of Caleb Downs. This is actually a conversation I had with him a little bit yesterday, just getting into it's an unfamiliarity situation for everybody in that building except for Caleb. And man, what a football player to have on your roster at this point when no one has familiarity. It's basically a defensive coordinator. I mean, he's that smart. He's that much of a football savant. So, yeah, having at least one one prep for this football team last year at Alabama, a tremendous advantage for a roster and a building who otherwise would be going into this sucker completely blind. So, yeah, there's 100% at least a sense of familiarity on the side of Caleb Downs, and that's going to provide a sense of safety for them. I'm expecting him to make some type of major impactful play on the extended RPO game that Tennessee's got. They hit Vanderbilt for a 180-yard explosive with Dante Thornton and another touchdown later with Mike Matthews, where the safety's in conflict. And if the safety can make a play on the football, they might create a turnover. Tips and overthrows and interceptions are created off RPOs at the line of scrimmage by those second and third level defenders. I expect Caleb Downs to make some type of impactful football play in this game, which, by the way, he's done in every big game for them. I think he won them the game against Penn State. The running game for Will Howard late in that football game iced the game, but the fourth quarter goal line stand was all Caleb Downs. An early third down turnover on downs was all Caleb Downs. You look at the Oregon game, their defensive ability to stop the passing attack, all Caleb Downs. This is their guy, and they employ him and use him to make impactful plays. I expect him to do that Saturday.
Brooks Austin is the film guy at Brooks Austin BA on social media. In this game, Ohio State and Tennessee, if I ask you to pick a quarterback, like equally prepared teams, you get one of these two quarterbacks. I'm going to assume you're going to say Howard. How close is it?
No.
Okay, you're going to say Nico. I was going to go the other way.
Ryan. I am anti-Howard Will Howard anti-Deep State. I'm as deep as they get. I'm the founder of it. I was the day one when they signed him out of Kansas State. I was like, what? We just paid $1.2 million for a 2,800-yard passer who might get us 600 yards rushing with his legs. Yeah, I know. 6'4", 225, big physical, can run the football, can make some of the throws. But here's how I know. I've listened to a ton of football, watched a ton of football, and everyone listening to this today has heard this from broadcasters listening to football games. You got a young quarterback going out there against a really good defense, and you hear the broadcaster say, hey, offensive coordinator got to do a really good job today settling the quarterback, getting him some nice, easy completions to start the game. Watch Ohio State Saturday. You watch. The first throw for Will Howard will be some type of 5-yard hitch or some two-step slant. They'll get him the ball out of his hands real quickly, get him nice and comfortable. I saw this against Michigan. They start the game out, get him a nice RPO hitch, throw a little 5-yard completion. The next play, 2nd and 1, a normal rundown for most football teams. They jump into empty and run 5 hitches just to get him another easy completion. I watch a coordinator do everything he can to settle his quarterback. Where on the other side, number 8, Nico, that dude makes big-time throws every single down. I think there's been this big misconception about this guy. Now, he does make some young mistakes. He will put the ball at risk. He's inaccurate every once in a while. He's got improper footwork on the lower half every once in a while. But that dude's making big-time throws, man. They have very inconsistent offensive line play and no weapons, and they lead the SEC in rushing, and they're a 10-win football team in the playoffs. I think Tennessee's done a tremendous job of coaching their way and playing their way out of their inefficiencies on their roster, to be honest with you.
Very far-fetched, but I am pulling for Indiana to win this whole thing. They've got their hands full Friday night with Notre Dame. Going back to Ohio State, the only team that's beaten them in that game, we know special teams, big factor late in the first half, drop drop punt return from Caleb Downs. Indiana's defense, I think, can play with Notre Dame. Indiana's offense going against Al Golden's defense. How can the Hoosiers produce some points, lengthen some of these drives, and keep it close in South Bend?
2 football games stick out like sore thumbs, both on the tape and the game logs on Indiana's season this year. Ironically, they're against the 2 teams that actually have blue chippers, Michigan and Ohio State. Both of those defenses completely rendered Indiana's run game useless. So what you end up dependent upon is RPOs the entire time. We've talked about that on this network. Those are turnover-worthy plays. Those are tight window throws. Those are quick decisions. You keep doing that over and over again to try to create successful offense, you're going to put the ball at risk. They did against Michigan. They did against Ohio State. They will have that happen against them, against Notre Dame, if they can't establish some type of consistent, traditional run game. I think they averaged 1.7 yards per carry against Michigan and Ohio State. You're going to lose those football games most of the time. They went 1-1 in those football games. Beat Michigan because Michigan's anemic on the offensive side of the football. That could be the recipe here against Notre Dame. I'm with you. I think Indiana's defense can create problems for Notre Dame. Here's the good news for Indiana. Notre Dame's fresh up off a football game where USC gashed them for 4 quarters, but it was without their All-American nose tackle, who's expected to play in this football game. So if you're a live bettor, and I'm not a gambling guy, but if you're a live bettor and you watch the first quarter of this football game and it looks like Indiana's having to play this one in a phone booth, go ahead and live bet Notre Dame because they're going to walk away from it. That's what happens when you become anemic or you become one-dimensional offensively. Offense becomes way too hard. We're dependent upon your quarterback making big-time throws. I think that's going to happen to Indiana in this ball game at some point.
All right, before you go, we saw Texas in person. You were there. Their receiving core, they seem to be so deep. They've got an future NFL quarterback. Why does it not work? Why do they not look more explosive? What's wrong with Texas's offense? They seem to have the parts.
Against Georgia and in this football game, potentially against Clemson, the problem is they can't run the ball. Okay, their whole entire deep passing game. Now, I'm not talking about their screen game. I'm not talking about their fake screen game that they scored against Georgia against. I'm talking about their traditional passing concepts, their deep passing concepts. Those are based off play action. They want to put the ball into the belly of the back. They want to get safety rotation. They want to get the second and third level defenders to suck up to be worried about the run, and then they beat you over the top. The only way that's created is if they're running the football successfully. You look at the game logs for Texas, and we just got done doing that film study. It's going to be uploaded on my YouTube channel, the Film Guy Network, here in a second. Shameless plug. But anyways, the other 2 game logs that stick out, the other 2 games on the schedule that stick out are Arkansas and Vandy. Those 2 football teams held them to sub 4 yards per carry in the rushing department. They become inefficient in the run game. They become inefficient in the passing game. The 2 are connected with Texas's offense. So that's what might happen in this one. I think Peter Woods, I think DJ Capehart, I think Clemson's interior defensive line are big, they're physical, and they can stop the run. And I think they come out with a relatively similar game plan to what Georgia did to them 2 times over and what Vandy tried to do to them. It's so funny watching Vandy play Texas the week after Georgia did. It's like watching Vandy try to play Georgia's defense with Vandy's players, because that's exactly what they did. And believe it or not, they gave them problems.
That's right.
They gave them problems for 4 quarters. Texas's offense didn't look explosive in that football game, especially from a run game.
All right, you can follow Brooks on social media at Brooks Austin BA. His YouTube channel is the Film Guy Network. You just heard him reference there. A lot of the film work we're talking about has yet to even go up. So you can
Clemson, Texas in mere moments.
That's right. You can hear him talk about it and then see the evidence of everything he has said right there at the Film Network on YouTube. Always good stuff, Brooks. We always appreciate the time. Enjoy the playoffs. Have a great Christmas. We'll see you again soon.
No doubt, boys. Y'all be good.